and we're here to talk a little about the FIDE Candidates Tournament. That it's not over, but it's over. And here to tell us a little more about that is a man who knows a little about the World Championship. Our name right there on the header, Garry Kasparov. How you doing today, Gary? Bit of an anticlimax, maybe?
Yes, of course. Everybody wanted to see the last round, just to see this fight, not to stop until the last minute of round 14. But it did happen, and Nepo drew very comfortably against MVL. He was always pressing, and I guess if not for Giri losing to Grishuk quite poorly, Nepo probably could have tried, just to play this game against MVL a bit longer. But again, it's all about winning the tournament, and he just secured his spot in the next World Championship match by offering a draw.
Right. And what should we do if you want to go ahead and get it out of the way? We talked about, let's talk about this key game, and you're kind of like, it wasn't much of a game. I mean, again, we're talking about somebody who was in a desperate situation, and that usually doesn't lead to good chess. But if we can go ahead and bring up the board, maybe we can get a quick look at it.
I would talk about Giri, but yeah, because that was
the decisive.
No, but also MVL was in a desperate situation. He had some very, very remote mathematical chances to catch up if he would won today. Okay. But again, his choice of the opening was not the one that could knock Nepo out of balance.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the game that, for better or worse, really the game, as you put it yesterday, the one that really decided this tournament was played a year ago. Oddly enough, the Nepomniachtchi's win over Giri. But meanwhile, though, they did, Giri was out there today in a must-win. Basically a must-win with black.
I'm not so. Again, look, this is. No? I'm not so sure that was a good idea, to play this game for must-win.
Okay.
Because they still had the last round. Let's say he could draw today, and they would end up, with the same half a point distance before the last round. But Giri had, white against Alexeyenko. That would offer him a great chance of winning. And then, his fate would be decided in the game Dink Nepo. But Dink is a good player. Dink has white in the last round against Nepomniachtchi, and I think the pressure on Nepomniachtchi would be much, much higher. Okay. Again, playing black against Dink, knowing that you must survive at any cost, that could be challenging. But it's water under the bridge. So Giri decided that he had to try his luck today, and playing this risky opening against Grishuk. That was not, in my view, that was not the wisest choice.
Because again, this is a situation where, and you've been in a few must-win situations yourself over the years, of course, that you try not to maintain. Try not to eliminate, create any situation where they can break the pressure. But he ended up in a kind of a lose-lose situation or lose-draw situation of anything that he did to try to sharpen things was just going to turn out worse for himself.
But let me again just repeat. It was not a must-win situation today. So yeah,
but he played kind of as if it were.
Yeah, but that was a mistake.
Okay.
That was a mistake because he had to protract the agony. Nepomniachtchi would have to make difficult choices in the last round, playing black against Dink, knowing that Giri most likely would be a favorite in his game with white against Alexeyenko, and trying to actually shift the climax of the tournament from the last round to the penultimate round was Giri's mistake.
Okay. That's good stuff, and maybe you've got a job in your future as maybe a little a coach or something. I could.
Yeah, I did some coaching in my life.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Need a little something to do to keep you off the streets there. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at this opening. You mentioned a few moments, but a fairly slow developing position. But you said black's position was fine. You didn't seem like you were that worried as far as Giri's overall position. It was just the choice, the fact that he kind of left things in the hands of Grishuk.
Depends how we qualify fine. So that's just, if Garry played this game under normal circumstances, I don't think he would have lost the game. I think he knew that what Black had to do in this situation is to play carefully, to equalize, and he's known for being a good defender. Always finds defensive resources, and I think he would have survived without major problems. But he just he had a very different task set for himself today, and considering his aspirations for the game, the choice of opening, and the character of the position that they reached in the middle game. And by the way, this is not a character of the position that was a surprise. That's what to be expected. Okay. Somehow they just followed the pattern of Karpov-Korchnoi game played I don't know 30 years ago or so. So it's the and White had fairly simple maneuvers to have a solid position with a slight pressure. And again, I don't see what was the point of giving Grishuk such a comfortable life.
Mm-hmm. And exactly. And then how do you switch suddenly into win at all costs mode from that sort of opening, from that sort of position? Is that you can't. It's going to be suicide against a player as strong as Grishuk, which is basically what it turned out to be.
I can only suspect that Garry probably expected today e4, first e4, and he looked for some, sharp Sicilians. But Grishuk plays, from both hands. He also plays d4, and same by the way with MVL and the Nepomniachtchi game. We talked about a little bit about what to expect from this game, and I suggested that Nepomniachtchi would play safely. Maybe bishop b5 check at move 3 in Sicilian. Yes. But he just simply decided to move for first knight f3 to play the safest.
Right.
And again, we are not here to criticize his choices. It's he looked for MVL preparation, and he didn't want to take any chance. And for both Nepomniachtchi and Grishuk, the choice of this solid openings proved to be a good one.
Yeah, no, it worked out very, very well. And again, unless you're Garry, and as you said, that's an interesting thing, that the mistake was made before he sat down, perhaps, or maybe after he saw that first move, and then once he realized, wait, now what? I mean, I'm sure he must have had something in mind for d4, but clearly. Maybe a psychological problem there.
Yes, but I think it's about his aspirations before the game. I think he wanted to push today, and he didn't want to wait until the last round. And it's a mistake because he blinked first. So I would strongly, if I had anything to say for him, I would definitely suggest that he would push the climax to the last round.
Right, and trying to count on Nepomniachtchi feeling the pressure even more.
We talked about the last round of 2013 London tournament.
Right.
When Kramnik and Carlsen were competing, and what's happened in the last round? So Magnus, there was a tie, but Magnus had a better tie break, so which means Kramnik couldn't share the first place. Kramnik played black against Ivanchuk, and Magnus played white against Swidler. And Kramnik decided to push. I understand why, because he was desperate, because he needed to win. But Magnus also, just probably being, scared of Kramnik pushing, he also didn't want to play. And they both lost. So they both lost in the last round, because last round is the last round, and there's more pressure. And Nepomniachtchi facing Dink with black pieces. That again, it's all hypothetical now, but still, that could be a more challenging task for Nepomniachtchi than today playing a comfortable game with white against MVL.
Right. All right. So again, it's weird to talk about the tournament like it's over when they still have to come back tomorrow and play another round. But the whole point of this is to find the challenger for the world champion, and that has been achieved.
That's it. The tournament is over. The last round is for rating and for fun. And I hope we'll see some fun games tomorrow. Right. There will be probably a lot of entertainment, but But the goal of the tournament was to define the challenger for Magnus Carlsen. And we know that this year, if nothing happens, of course, everything goes according to the plan, we'll see a match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Right. That's scheduled for late November, and in Dubai, 14-game match scheduled, a bit of a bump from the recent matches of 12 games, which one of the reasons was that, they've been drawing every single game drawn in the last match. So they decided to increase it, maybe to increase the chances of there being more decisive games, more encounters. And you've made this argument for a long time that you can play with more risk the longer, if you know you have chance to recover.
Slightly more, but it's again 14 and 12. That's
maybe just two games, right?
Yes,
when you talk about 20, like your match is 20, 24. No, 20, you could take a risk because if you lost, you had a chance to come back. Whereas 12, these guys are so strong, they're so well prepared.
Yeah, well, if it's 12, then probably after game 8,
right?
They're already moving to defensive mode. Okay. So now they have to play. They have more luxury. There's so more wriggle room. So they can probably start thinking about being protecting the turf after game 10. Right. So it adds 2 games just to be played in a more aggressive style with more risk. Does it improve chances that we'll see a decisive game and the match will not go into the tiebreak? Yes. Mm-hmm. But still, it's there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. The reason is that I think we have better chances now to avoid tiebreak, is that unlike any previous matches, Magnus is, especially against Maciej Caruana, Magnus is cannot be so comfortable with the tiebreak against Nepo. He was better than Karyakin, and he was much better than Caruana in tiebreak. He knew it.
So that's why blitz, right?
Exactly, rapid and blitz. Yes. Sure. So Magnus, was comfortable even just offering draw to Caruana in game 12 when he was just had a very, very comfortable and promising position. Now he will have to think twice because in a fast time control, Nepo probably not as good as Magnus, but is definitely better than Caruana and Karyakin.
Okay, that's key stuff. Again, not something you had to calculate for back in your World Championship days of going to tiebreak.
No tie breaks, no tie breaks.
No rapid, no blitz tossed in there. You just played for the marathons. Well, the big question, of course, on everyone's mind now is, first it was, would Magnus rather face, Garry or Nepomniachtchi or Caruana again? Now we have the challenger. We have Nepomniachtchi. We don't have to put an exact betting line on it or anything, but you've already said that Magnus would be the clear favorite against either of them. Perhaps a little less so against Garry because of the tremendous form he was showing in this tournament and recently, not even before this tournament, this year. Now, Nepomniachtchi, give your take on him as a player and his chances in November.
Look, he has greatly improved over the last year or in a couple of years. He played very aggressive, dynamic, entertaining chess, but he was, I wouldn't say lightweight, but he was very spontaneous, impulsive, and now you could see that he can control himself. So he spends more time, he's trying to ruminate during the game. He increased his opening repertoire, so he added a few more elements to his game, and he is more difficult to beat now. Again, it's not just he won the candidates. So what's very important, he played a very solid tournaments, that was separated by a year. Mm-hmm. So it's Garry played a great tournament in Ekaterinburg until the second half, until the game was Grishuk. But his performance a year ago was not a good one. Now MVO played a good one a year ago and quite a lousy one this year. But when you look at Nepo, he was solid, and that's what's very, very important. That's what counts. Mm-hmm. So the solid performance. And if he can make further improvements of his game, that might be an interesting challenge for Magnus. definitely it's a different player, because both Caruana and Karyakin, I'm not even counting Anand, that was another generation. So I'm talking about players of the same generation. So both players, they had a different style. So it's less aggressive than Nepomniachtchi. So it might be, it's more entertaining for Magnus, and it's probably, he may find it easier, to crack Nepomniachtchi's defense lines. But also, since Nepomniachtchi traditionally was very good in a fist fight. Yeah. So it's again, I'm curious to see how Magnus will handle it. So, but I have no doubt that he is a favorite. I'm not comfortable of giving the odds. I just think Magnus is favorite because he had massive experience of playing World Championship match. And also one thing that is just, that's makes this match more interesting, they work together. Nepomniachtchi worked with Magnus. I don't know for how many years. It definitely worked for probably at least for one match. I think it's some time ago. But Nepomniachtchi, had some very good relations with Magnus and some, working experience. That means, they know each other well, and that might work one way or another. So Magnus knows him better than other players, but it means Nepo also knows how Magnus prepares for the match.
Right, and that's something that I think you had a few regrets about, having worked with your challenger in 2000.
Exactly, yes.
And suddenly Kramnik was like, "Wait a minute."
Yes. I just thanks for reminding me about Kramnik being in my team in 1995 when I faced Anand.
Absolutely, and he was certainly open about that too. It was like that was an absolute masterclass in preparing, not just getting to know Garry, but the methods, the training camp, all of that stuff, how to do it at the highest level, and that's certainly going to help Nepomniachtchi. Of course, they go way back in other ways as well. People are talking in the chat about some of their, this childhood rivalry. They're born in the same year, both 1990, and the year of one of your World Championship matches. So.
My last World Championship against Karpov, yes.
Right. So born under that, they were born under that sign, the KK sign.
Yes.
But and then they played each other, and they're talking about the score. But I think everybody realizes that what happened in an under 12 championship is irrelevant as far as using it as any sort of prognostication.
What is the score lately? Because they have been playing against each other for 10 years now.
Right.
And what's the score?
I don't know what the most recent one is. Maybe someone will tell us, because so many of the games lately have been all rapid and blitz, which we can't discard, as you were just saying, because rapid and blitz is now part of the World Championship. But as far as classical games, I think the last one decisive was back in 2019, I think, was a win for Magnus. And then, but Nepomniachtchi beat him like in an under 14 and an under 12, which I don't think anybody's really thinking about.
Does my memory betray me, or Nepomniachtchi once beat Magnus with black and weak?
Yeah.
In classic.
That sounds right. I was looking at their stuff.
I think it beat, yes. I don't remember year, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a way back. But I think, but even in classical, I think again people are saying, "Oh, but he has a 4-1 advantage," and it's kind of like, well, then you look at the games and 11 years old or 14 years old. I don't think either of them are thinking about that, and for good reason. But it's interesting. Just one last note before we move on to some of the questions, that you talk about the style, and that to me is very interesting because, where you mentioned that Nepomniachtchi was this, such an aggressive player, an attacking player, which is Magnus is coming from the other side, and he's matured, getting better at those positions, coming from a more, positional, solid style. And so maybe Nepomniachtchi, can he still seek those positions out against Magnus? Does Magnus have a weakness that Nepomniachtchi might be able to find in his preparation as far as trying to sharpen positions, or is Magnus now so well-rounded that's he shouldn't be taking any extraordinary risks to get into those positions?
No, that's a question I cannot answer now, because that will depend very much on their evaluation of the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and that takes more than just a Twitch conversation. It's logical to suggest that Nepomniachtchi will try to push Magnus into more like territory of uncertainty, okay, with more complications. But that means taking more risk. I don't know. I tend to agree with your assessment that Nepomniachtchi's best chance would be to play positions without clear strategic objectives, because it's undoubtedly it's in the technical end games or in as we call dry strategic positions, Magnus has an upper hand. But still, it's the nuances. Yeah, there's like the big picture, but then the nuances that might be very important, because it's not just about type of position, but it's also you have to look at the openings. Whether Nepomniachtchi had a very, very, unlike Magnus, very limited choice of openings. Mm-hmm. Somehow it's like MVL. That's this. He played Neidorf and Grunfeld. Now Nepomniachtchi keeps that's increasing his opening repertoire. He played other openings, but still unlike Magnus, Nepomniachtchi had strong opening preferences. So while Magnus it's has one of the broadest opening repertoire I ever seen. So he can just play almost everything. Mm-hmm. But even Magnus has some positions that he prefers more than others. And that's why I think it will take time for them, just to strategize before they switch on their computers and start, burning energy by analyzing certain sharp lines. They will need to understand which direction to take. And I'm not here to offer any advice.
Not for free, at least, folks.
No, not at all. I'm not involved in this match. I will be watching from a side, and I'm sure we'll have many opportunities. Hopefully, all 14 games of the match, 14 days, to discuss with our audience on Kasparovchess.
I hope so. One question coming in, and it relates to the preparation, and is Nepomniachtchi's ability to work. You mentioned that he was someone who didn't seem to be taking things that seriously. He had this light repertoire, played very dynamically. But now it was revealed that Peter Leko was on his team. I mean, the solid, synonymous with solid and hard work, and that kind of represents perhaps a bit of a change in tone and emphasis for him. And is that someone you would see? Were you surprised to hear that at all, do you think that would be something that would influence the preparation going forward for the World Championship match?
I'm not surprised, because that explains a lot. So the appearance of Leko in Nepo's team tells us more about his preparation, and as I said, explains sudden change of preferences and more solid approach for the choice of the openings, and that tells us that he for the preparation. World Championship match preparation, he will be probably exploring the same avenues. So he knows that he has to build the broader and more solid opening repertoire to make sure that he will have many options by facing Magnus under different scenarios, because the match can go one way or another, and you need to have you always need to have a game plan for the next day depending on the match situation.
Right. All right. Good stuff. Last question here we'll take for Garry Kasparov here is a personal one, and it is, if you are going to be playing any chess this year on Kasparovchess or elsewhere.
Yeah, we always we always reach a point where I want to debate the semantic of the word playing, because for me playing was always it's a professional undertaking. But if you consider me, showing up at the chessboard and moving the pieces, the answer is yes. But I'll do it just for fun, and I will do it as was planned in and now it becomes traditional in St. Louis in 960 games in September.
Okay. All right. So
by the way, speaking about Kasparovchess, yes, yeah, at the moment, we are, we're live, and we are, just, we have regular schedule. So I'm planning to spend several hours every month online, and that will definitely include moving the pieces.
Okay, so you haven't forgotten. You don't need anybody's help on this. There's some nice tutorials on the website if you need to refresh
I know. Yeah. My problem is not, to remember the rules, but actually how to handle my mouse.
Okay, I know people have no idea what trouble we'd get into if they put you live streaming your Blitz games. I've observed enough of those Blitz sessions and learned all sorts of fantastic new vocabulary in Russian. All right, folks. Speaking of Kasparovchess, we are going to be going live. We still are open for pre-registration, which you should do. That will still get you in a little ahead of the crowds, but we are going to be opening fully in early May. So hustle over there to kasparovchess.com and do your registration there, and we'll be on there. And maybe you'll have a chance to play this guy. Are you to my left or my right? Do I need to?
No, I know. Look, I can tell that there were many incentives. So yes, there will be memorabilia, signed books, and other interesting options for those who will come first online.
Okay. All right, folks. Thank you all for joining us here. And again, no show tomorrow because honestly, as Garry said, the tournament is over. Even though they're going to come back and play another round, who knows? Maybe if there's something truly shocking, it's hard to imagine what that would be.
If we see another immortal game, I take my word, we will be online. But somehow I'm not expecting the game that will stay with us for a long time.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you all again for joining us here on our Twitch debut. Congratulations, Garry. You can tell the young people that you're a live streamer.
Yes, my kids will be very proud of me.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Garry. See you soon.